Hello and welcome to Gary's Garage. Well, today I'm going to be doing the front differential fluid on the Touareg. This is a 2014 TDI powered Touareg. For those who've watched the channel before, I've mentioned that I'm going to be doing this job. It's taken me a lot longer to get to this than I had hoped, so without further ado, let's get the car up in the air and get going on this relatively simple but important job. Thanks. First step in this job is to remove the under engine cover. Some people call it a skid pad, although being it's made out of a composite material or plastic material, it would not do very well as a skid pad. 10 millimeter. I used to use a driver to pull this out. There she comes. There we go. Here we are under the cart, and this is the differential, front differential assembly. And anytime you're doing any gear oil, it's important to know that there is a fill hole as well as a drain. On this car, this is the drain and the fill is up here on the front. You'll notice that there's very little room between part of the subframe and the actual plug for the fill. So it's a bit of a bother to do. So you can either get just a regular Allen key, and you may have to cut the end off, but I think you can use a regular Allen key, put it in there, and then you can use a wrench with that to give it more leverage. It shouldn't be too tight unless it's already been changed and someone gorilla'd it, but it should be pretty easy to do. How I'm going to do it is I've got a ball style 8 millimeter Allen and on a wobble stick, and I can just fit that in over the top of the subframe and then get that right into the drain. So then there we go. So let me just set up the tripod and we'll pull this out. Hoping that you can see this. So you go over the front of the subframe sway bar and then over the top of the other part of the subframe, and I know I'm blocking this, and then you can get it into the fill, and then look at that, easy as pie, and just get it out. So because this is a fill plug, it is possible that when you take it out, that some fluid will drip out. So I'm going to get the pan, bucket, catch anything that comes out. It shouldn't be much. If anything, over time, gear oils, if they get warm, you can evaporate part of the fluids and the level can go down, even if it doesn't leak out. So it's quite possible that this will come out and there'll be no fluids coming out. Look at that, not even a drop. There we go. There's the plug. In this case, there is a O-ring type seal on this. So it's probably still usable. Feels a little firm though. Yeah, probably a good idea to get a replacement. But now we're ready to do the drain, but I'm going to see if I can get my finger in here I can get just a little bit of the oil. So there we go. Okay, so let's get set up to drain this. It's important when you're doing oil, try not to get them on your hands, and if you do, it's no big deal. Just wash your hands because you don't want to get have oil on your hands too much. All right, so I've got my drain bucket right underneath. The differential is cold. It's fairly thick fluid, this gear oil, so it will it should drain out quite slowly. So and I do have my glass jar here, which I'm just going to get in my hand. So we want to get a little bit of the midstream oil, so we can take a look at that later. Doesn't look too bad actually, but when you look at it in the jar, it actually looks fairly dark. Let me get the light, and then we can take a look at this. And I'm going to let it drain because it is cold. I'm just going to let it take its time to drain. I have the fluid in the jar on the bench, and when we shine the light out, you can see some color to it. It's not terrible. You can it's semi-translucent. You can kind of see through it there. It's sort of brown, but you know, when you look in it, I'm looking for any kind of shiny reflective bits, and you know, I'm not seeing any, which means it kind of tells me that there's no metal in there, which is a good thing, which means that the differential is not you know, it's not wearing, the gears aren't wearing. So another thing you can do is take a strong magnet. This is quite a strong magnet for the size, so the magnetic density is quite high. And I just put it on a metal stick, and I'm going to stick it in the jar and swirl it around. Take it out and take a look at it. So if there was any metal particles floating in the oil, they would become apparently adhered to the magnet. And I see one little guy. Or is that a bubble? That was a bubble. All right, so there is some tiny, yeah, there actually is some. Yeah, there's a little bit of very fine, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of very fine metal particles that are on there. And, you know, that fluid looked very good, but it is there was a bit of metal suspended in that. So it's not abnormal. This is normal, but it is an indicator. Like if you put your magnet in there and it comes out looking like a porcupine, well, you know, you're probably wearing a lot of metal, and the oil is probably well overdue. But a tiny little bit of this is not the end of the world. I'm fine with that. So that's what we can do, and that tells us the condition of the oil. To replace the oil, I've got this Castrol synthetic. You know, there's lots of other people that make a synthetic 7590, which is a spec for this. I've got two 1 liter or 1 US quart, sorry, bottle sizes, because I believe it takes 1.1 or something like that liters. But I'll have enough to fill it up with some leftover. And it should be synthetic. It should be, and it should also have a friction modifier if you've got any kind of limited slip. So the specifications on this is that friction modified for use in both conventional and limited slip axles. So it's a fluid that's good in both kinds. So obviously you got it covered using this. So you can use what you want, but this type of specification is the type of fluid you want to put in. Okay. Just a quick word on the drain plug and the seal. So in this case, these plugs, both the drain and fill plug, use an O-ring. You can see this O-ring. And to assess the O-ring, what you need to know is you need to see that it's still flexible. And you can stretch it out and it returns on its own. You can use your nail or a screwdriver. You can press into it and it should return without leaving a mark. So in that case, I know that this O-ring is still good and I can reuse it.
Anytime you have a plug that has an O-ring on it or anything else has an O-ring on it, the torque requirements are not going to be very high because the O-ring does the sealing. It doesn't need to be squished down hard or anything like that. So, and over-torquing or over-tightening it can cause problems taking it apart later, or may squish the O-ring to the point where it then fails early and then it starts leaking. So always a good idea to look up the torque. I think we're 27 foot-pounds on this, and we'll torque these back on properly once we've got it filled up, or actually when we put the drain in and then the fill plug once we've got it in. So let's go.
Finished draining. I've already cleaned it off. You can use a rag or paper towel. Get it clean, make sure there's no foreign objects. Get it installed and started. Again, 8mm. Snug. Let me get the torque wrench, one which is an old style gray, and this is not a click type, so you have to actually look at the gauge while you're doing this. And I don't know if you probably can't see it, but yeah, well, you just right about there. That's it. 27. It's now there are two different differentials. One supposedly takes 1.1 liter, one takes 0.9 liter or something like that. So this is a US quart, which is 946. Probably should take most of this, maybe all of this. I don't know if you can see how clear this fluid is. Let's see if we can get a bit of a close-up of that. Should be able to see how clean this fluid is going in. It's there's a little bit of yellow color to it, but it's pretty clear, which, you know, is another confirmation that the oil that was in it had changed color, had yellowed over time. So this is actually going in kind of slow. I was pouring too fast. Let's go take a look underneath. Well, there we are underneath. I don't know if you can see in the tube, there's still a bit of fluid in the tube, but gear oil, but the gear oil is already dripping out, but it's not dripping out fast. So, and it's landing right in the bucket. So finally, I did a job where I didn't get it all over the place. But hey, it's not over yet, so you never know. So now the thing to do is to remove the fill and put the plug in, and some of the fluid's going to come out when we do that. So, but quickly I'll set up the camera on the pod. That's nice. Got a grip on my head. How's that possible? Alright, so pull the end out. I'm going to start dripping a little faster. It's all good. The plug in position. Of course, it has to drip down your arm. It's required. But you have the glove on, so it's not too bad. And there we go. So I'm just going to put the cap on the end of the pipe here, the hose. That should keep the dripping down to a minimum. I'll remove this all, and then we'll tighten this fill plug, and we'll clean up, and we're all done. 8mm ball-headed Allen in place. Snug it. Put on the torque wrench. Pull to 27 foot-pounds. And that is the job. There we go. Now just to finish off, for me, because there's a little bit of drip fluid, just a little brake clean to take any residual oil off this, and that way someone doesn't think that it's actually leaking or whatever. You want to clean it up. You don't want to leave a little bit of oil on there, a little bit of gear oil. And then this will dry off and should look pretty good. So there we go. Looks great. So all that's left to do is reinstall the covers, which I don't think I'm going to show you, and that's it. That's how to change your front differential. So interval, we should just quickly talk about interval before I sign off. So intervals, you know, the manufacturer probably says this is a lifetime fill fluid. You know me, if you know me, I don't believe in that. So what is the interval? So it depends on service, extreme or heavy duty service. You're doing off-roading, you know, really using that front diff a lot. I would have a shortened one, maybe 50 or 60,000 miles, you know, about 100,000 kilometers. For regular use, you could go about 80,000 to 100,000 miles, which would be, you know, between 120 and 160,000 kilometers. This car is 125,000 kilometers, and it's been pretty light use, but I feel confident getting this done now. Next job for this car after this will be the rear diff, then the transfer case, and then the coolant needs to be replaced. So we're just going to keep trucking along, getting all these jobs done to keep this car in tip-top shape. Anyway, thanks for watching Gary's Garage. If you liked the video, please press the like button, and also if you like the video, please subscribe. I do appreciate those who watch. I thank you very much, and that's it for another episode of Gary's Garage.